when stars are in light, though we would know.
Welcome to this week's Improving Sales Performance livecast. And special guest today is Victor Giacomelli. We'll get to the intro in just 1 second. Hi, Victor. Good to have you here.
Good to be here.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. We're super excited to be bringing you this episode today, where we're going to really focus on what I think is one of the really essential resources, tools that sales leaders should be using to really improve sales performance, but for some reason it's not used as often as it should. It's not that difficult to use it. It's just one of those things that seems to get overlooked. We'll tell some good stories about how this device has been used successfully, and we'll jump into it. Remember, if you are new to the live cast, whether you're watching on LinkedIn or on YouTube, if you're on YouTube, if you could like, subscribe, and share. If you like what we're talking about, please like, subscribe, share. We do this every single week. We try to feature a piece of the business, a part of the business that if you focused on it, you would actually improve sales performance. And everything that we do here is to try to give back and help you to improve sales performance. So like, subscribe, and share would be awesome. And then also there is a comment box, and Victor and I are able to see the comments in, I think, semi-real time. So if you want to just practice, if you want to let us know where you're watching from, where you're viewing this from, let us know maybe what the weather is like in your neck of the woods, as the saying goes. All right, let me get to some introductions and we can jump in. My guest today is Victor Giacomelli. He's a longtime friend, and a friend of mine and a friend of the Center for Sales Strategies. Victor's a 28-year veteran in the broadcast sales and management world. He's held every single role in the sales and sales leadership that you could. AE, LSM, GSM, DOS, market manager, VP sales, senior VP revenue. Most of his career was spent with Chorus Radio in Canada as a GSM at 102.1 The Edge. And he was also the DOS of their largest cluster in Toronto, and VP of sales at a time when they had 52 stations across Canada. Victor's a real innovator. He championed what is believed to be Canada's first ever online remote broadcast back in 1995. I mean, an online remote broadcast by today's standards, not a big deal, but in 1995, huge deal. He also hired Chorus's first digital account manager back in 2003. In 2016, he was recruited to New York City to become the director of sales for MS Communications, Hot 97, and WBLS. He worked there with sponsorships, and was able to really champion and captain the sponsorship sales of events like WBLS's Circle of Sisters and Hot 97 Summer Jam. In January, he returned to Canada as managing director, ads and research for SoCast Digital. Interesting, he was SoCast's very first client when he was the acting VP of sales at Chorus Radio and oversaw the launch of station's websites and apps back in 2013, something that earned him and his team the President's Award for doing that in his organization. He's been a longtime friend and partner at CSS, been working with us for over 20 years, and has been a speaker at some of our previous events. So with that, we are very excited, very happy to have you on the live cast, Victor.
Matt, it's great. It's great to be here. Thank you for the invite. And it's interesting hearing you recap all of that stuff. It's like, I feel like I've been doing this like so long now.
You're really old is what it says.
Yeah, exactly.
That's basically what it comes to. All right, so let's jump into this. On the improving sales performance this season, we've been focusing on this, on what we call the Impact Sales Leadership System. And it's a comprehensive online training program, curriculum that sales leaders that would really benefit from going through. You were one of the subject matter experts when we were building this. And it turned out really, the feedback on it has been exceeded our expectations. And we broke it into four areas: people, process, planning, and performance. And today, and Shay just put up the link. That's a good reminder. If you want a free sample, you can go to css.buzz/impact in all caps. One of the things that we uncovered in the discovery of what is really, really important is this concept of a sales calendar. Describe to everybody what a sales calendar is. I think you used to call it sales promo calendar, but what is it?
Yeah, look, I think if there's any sales managers on the line or maybe program directors, I'm certain that there has been a sales manager at some point in their career that has said, gee, I wish I would have launched this event sooner, or I wish I had a longer selling window. Or there may be some program directors that are wondering, how come these sponsorships can't get sold? And I'm sure there's a GM somewhere that's looking at this going, how do I get more activation through all of my events and collaboration from programming, sales, and their content teams? And that really was the advent of this sales promo calendar, where it really, in its simplest form, Matt, is a blocking chart. It's a blocking chart that allows the head of sales, regardless of their title, DOS, Senior VP Revenue, allows them to kind of block out and properly plan for the right selling window for all of these different events that stations have. There's nothing worse, I think, for a sales rep that gets a package and then all of a sudden it's like, when, like, this launches when? Next week? Like, I don't have time to get this sold. So it really was a way for us to kind of drill down in terms of planning out our big marquee events or tentpole events, and put it in a blocking chart so that we could see when the events were going to happen, when the revenue impact would have, and how much time we needed to ramp up for selling time to make sure that we monetize these.
Yeah, I think, certainly on the CSS side of this, and talking to lots of sales leaders and salespeople, you do exactly hear what you said, Victor. You hear a frustration by salespeople all the time where they say, man, I wish I would have known that we had this available. I just lost a piece of business 2 weeks ago because they wanted something for September, and I didn't know we were even going to be doing this.
Yeah.
How frustrating. That's a big problem.
Yeah. Well, and I think when you start, in terms of your impact, if planning is one of the core elements of it, this is a prime way to help plan out your year, because it's not just blocking out your major events that you have, but there's always going to be different holiday events. There's certain ratings sweeps that are more relevant in markets that you want to be able to amp up. In terms of building budgets, when you're building a sales budget, you want to make sure that you've got ample time to know, when is this revenue going to impact my revenue line, and what are the costs associated with that? So there should be no excuse to not have these things all laid out. And what better way to prep your team when they're building their own personal business plans that should roll up to budgets?
Right. I mean, it's like in Canada, we know that Boxing Day is going to happen every year. In the States, we know that the week after Christmas is going to happen every year, right? I mean, it's not a surprise.
Yeah. I mean, it happens. Like, there's certain events that happen every year. And I mean, I'm sure many people are on the line going, I've sat in a conference room waiting in a sales meeting going, like, we're just planning Valentine's Day now, or we're just planning this. I mean, so I think a lot of times, Matt, what happens is we get so caught up in the day-to-day of the business that you're focusing on kind of the small rocks versus thinking about the big rocks of the future. And I think when the benefit in this tool, I think, is, and it's so simple to do, right? Like, it's not a big task. Really what you need is someone who's organized to help lay it all out, and then have a senior leadership meeting with your programming and content team to figure out when all of these things are laid out. I mean, even things like CSS market visits, target drives, key account drives, all of those things could be built into this plan, so that as you're building out your annual calendar, you know exactly when these events are going to happen, and that you're not overlapping too many sales actions. Because if you narrow the focus, you broaden the appeal. If you narrow the focus of the concentration of the event, you're generally going to have better success.
All right, so let's get a little deeper here. What are, and maybe Shay, maybe you can bring up the sales calendar so we can look at it. And Victor, what are the most important elements of the sales calendar? What are we looking at here? Kind of walk us through, like, if someone's looking at this and they've never seen something like this before, explain it that way.
Yeah. So this is a simple blocking chart. On the left-hand side, you're looking at 2020 major opportunities. So here, the sales leader would be outlining all of the major events that they're going to have lined up for the year. When I think back to our career together, Matt, like EdgeFest, Summer Jam, Circle of Sisters, there's going to be certain events that are going to happen, and you want to block off that date. So in the case of Big Night Out, you're going to block off March and April, because that's where it's going to have the revenue impact. And you might even want to block off in a different color code that in April, that's when Big Night Out is going to happen.
All right. So Shay, zoom in just a little bit so we can see what the 3 rows are. There you go. Yeah. One more click, maybe. There you go.
Perfect. So I think, so on line 1 is when is the event going to actually happen, and when is the revenue associated with that event going to fall into your broadcast month? The second part is the selling window. When are you actually going to sell for these events? In this case, for Big Night Out, we're going to focus on February and March, because we think we're going to get 1 month of lead up. Some will fall into March, but we also know that in March, there's still going to be some last minute business that's going to fall in. And then the final thing is the planning side. And the planning side is, we're going to have all of our marketing material and sales decks built out in January, so that when we launch this at our sales meeting, there should not be any salesperson in the conference room that can look at this and say, and ask a question, and we don't have an answer. There's nothing. I mean, and I've had this happen to me, Matt, where you launch a package and then you go, oh, I don't know how many promos we're running. I don't know what the web content's going to be. And the moment that happens, automatically, it's human nature. The sales rep is going to look back and go, yeah, I'll wait till you'll get everything fixed up, and then I'll pitch it to my client, because we're not buttoned up yet. So I think focusing on these things: the event, when it's going to happen, the months that the revenue is going to fall, the months that you're going to sell, and the date that you're going to plan. And where it says Matt there, I would actually have the launch date. Like, I'm going to launch this on January 24th in my sales meeting to the full staff, and I'm going to put on a big show to get everybody excited about why they need to participate in this event.
I think if you had multiple sales managers, and in this case, Matt was the one that was going to be the owner of collecting that information or be the point person, you might have the person's name there, but the exact date is really important. One of the my next question to you, but is going to be about why is it sometimes that why should salespeople want to use this or actually demand to use this, right? But before that, one of the benefits of this that I think happens, that I've observed, is we always get, any sales leader watching knows this happens, you always get that initiative that gets brought down from above. Hey, Victor, we have this opportunity for July and August that we need you to sell. When you have something like this, you can pull it out and go, well, hold on. If I'm going to do this, I mean, it's kind of like the exercise we do in TFM with the bells ringing.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, we're in the middle of that. We don't have, on the flip side of that though, you can also sometimes see where there are openings, where there's nothing that you're focused on.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Matt. When you lay this out and you actually look at a 12-month screenshot and you start to see where the holes are, that's when you can start to say to, your programming team, your content team, your market president, hey, if we're going to plan another event, we want to plan the event in this window because we're going to be able to execute for it. And I think the benefit of this is that it's really twofold, Matt. It's, phase one is you want to plan for it. Phase two is you got to execute flawlessly on this, and not just execute the event, but execute the sales launch of it. And I think when you get that working in harmony, that's when you knock it out of the park revenue wise.
So why do you think some sales leaders don't use this? I mean, it seems pretty simple. Yeah.
Look, I think that, like, for me, I remember vividly my market president asking me, hey, with your last broadcaster, how did you run into the same problem? I said that we absolutely ran into the same problem. Like, why don't we lay this all out? And I was very blessed that we had a leadership team that really collaborated on this to build out the full impact of it. So to me, this isn't just a sales calendar. This is the formation of your overall business plan for your next fiscal year. So if your fiscal year is starting in January 1st, then budgets are likely due and approved sometime in December, which means you should have this completed sometime in October so that your sales reps then can start to build out their business plans, because I'm hoping that the sales leaders on the line are using this as a tool or have some mechanism in place that the sales reps budget is feeding into the station plan, which is feeding into the cluster plan, because a lot of these events are going to have expense lines associated with it.
Sure.
So I think part of the reason it's not used regularly is it's an easy thing to kind of pass over. It's an easy thing to say, we've always done it this way, let's just continue to do it this way. But I think when you kind of slow down, I used to use the analogy of, let's walk down the hill slowly, or let's slow down to speed up. When you lay all of these out, you're going to start to realize you can't do everything. So let's do the things that we know are going to make big impact and do them really, really well. And once you can execute, then do it, then plan out another event.
Yeah. What's that? Slow is smooth and smooth is fast.
Exactly.
How would you roll this out? Is this a one-day meeting? Is this a half day? Is this an offsite? Is this a gather everyone together? How does that work?
Look, I think there's two ways that I would go about this, Matt. I'd say for the managers, I think this is a great half-day planning session, because this really is going to kind of formulate the promo calendar and sales calendar of what you're committing to do for the year. This is all about accountability. I'm putting it on paper, I'm building up my window, and I'm going to launch on these days. And then what it does is it allows your programming, content, and promotion teams to build out the assets that they're going to need to be successful. You know, you're going to want to have a save the date for your big events. You're going to want to have a launch event. You're going to want to block off your promos and liners. Like, there's a lot of work that has to get done. So I think doing that with the leadership team is also a great collaborative, fun day that can culminate in a lunch, dinner, drinks, that type thing. For the salespeople, I would launch this as part of our overall strategic planning objectives. Here is your calendar. Here's the business plans. And what you need to do now is fit in your planning for next year as we build budgets. I mean, if you're running a major event, Matt, and you know that the title sponsor's not coming back, you know you got a big hole to fill.
Right.
You're not going to fill it just by the week of the event saying, do you want to come on board? So you need to plan all of that stuff out. If you've got clients that are not coming back, sales reps need time to plan for target account development. You know, you did your session last week on target drive. I mean, this is a natural thing for the sales rep now to think of their annual business plan and think of, who do I have on my list, or who do I want to talk to bring in for my annual planning that ultimately would line up with the client's annual planning. So doing a big launch in a sales meeting or doing it off-site, I think you could do it either way. I would leave that to the sales lead, and they probably know their team best. But I would say have some fun with this, because like, I've never met a sales rep that really loves building a annual sales plan, right? Like, they generally want to kind of refrain from that. So I think anytime that you get them involved, I think it's great.
No, I agree. And is this something that you would make client facing, or would there be a version of it that's client facing? How did you do it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think absolutely you could do this client facing. I mean, if you think of the TV space, TV does an upfront every year, right? They highlight all their new programs, they throw big parties, they have a lot of fun, and they get clients excited about wanting to invest. I don't see any reason why you can't do this on a bigger scale, or at minimum have this in a good looking document with click-throughs to like a virtual service department to click through to what the marketing material is going to look like, you know, the elevator pitch or the story arc of what the show or event is all about. I would encourage everyone to do this up and have some fun, and don't be shy to share it with a client, because the more excited you get them, the more involvement they have in planning it out, the better the likelihood of closing the business.
No, I agree. I think that's great. So Victor, before we wrap up, tell everybody what you're doing now. What is it that you do? And if someone wanted to reach you, how would they do that? Give us kind of your 30 seconds.
Yeah. So I'll give you my quick, I've been practicing my elevator pitch because now I'm 6 months on the job, Matt. So SoCast started off as a company that built websites and apps for radio stations. So I was their first client at Chorus. They rebuilt all of our websites and apps. And we do that for over 1,500 stations across Canada and the US. So most broadcasters, and I was one of them, that are always looking for revenue growth. So our partners now are looking for other ways to grow digital revenues, and that's where SoCast Ads comes in. So we're part of a big network. I like to say, Matt, the two best parts of my old job were coaching talent and going on sales calls, and I get to do that all day long. So it's on the Vinny fun factor, it's very high.
And if people want to get a hold of you, Shay can bring up your LinkedIn. That's a great way of doing that. Victor, thank you so much for being a guest on our Improving Sales Performance. I am certain I will ask you again to come back, so know that that's going to be coming. As always, we're committed every single week to bringing everyone information that will help you to improve sales performance. We have been focusing on the Impact Sales Leadership System. Next week, we will continue. We will have Trey Morris on the show, where we will be talking about pipeline management. And in my opinion, pipeline management is critical. I don't know if it was, I think it's always been critical. I think right now, with how business is coming in and just the cycle of business these days, how well you're managing your pipeline versus just what's going to close this week, I think it is critically important. So next week, we're going to dive into pipeline management and how to do it effectively and some best practices. Victor, thank you so much for being on the show. We really appreciate it. See you guys.
Stars are in light, the weaver